Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our adventures in the Middle East. Well, today we're touring the amazing city of Cairo, but what we see here today is one of the most moving and spiritual experiences of our lives. We get to go into a cave that was actually occupied by Jesus, Mary, and Joseph during their flight through Egypt from Herod, and it was quite amazing. But in addition to that, we're also going to get to eat at one of the top 100 restaurants in the world, but I'll bet it's not quite what you're thinking.
Welcome to Living Phase 2.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Nancy, and we're empty nesters striving to live life to the fullest.
And we are living that full life, traveling all throughout Jordan and the Middle East and Egypt and showing you all the amazing sights these countries have to offer.
Well, we sure are, friends. And today we're going to begin by going to the Citadel here in Cairo. It's a medieval Islamic fort.
Yes, so this has been the seat of power, or was, I should say, the seat of power for over 700 years. The leaders ruled from this citadel before it was moved. And additionally, the thing that's really, I guess I'll say, amazing to see up here, and it's why it's a stop on almost every tour if someone's going to take you through Cairo, is the Mohamed Ali Mosque. So as you were saying earlier, no, not the boxer. But that's Muhammad Ali Pasha. He actually ruled in Egypt during the 19th century, the early 19th century, and he actually revamped or reconstructed a lot of things here at the Citadel. This Citadel has been here since the 12th century, and it's really quite amazing up here. Not only do you get to see the mosque that he built up here, but you also get some beautiful views over the city. Well, let's show it to you a little bit.
Well, after our guide stopped and parked the car, we went up the hill to the Citadel.
Now, one of the first things and the main things you'll see, as we mentioned, was the Muhammad Ali Mosque. As you walk up to the mosque, the outside is already quite beautiful, and we heard the call to prayer.
You enter by going through a courtyard where there's an ablution fountain. That's where people would worship or prepare to worship by washing their hands, their face, their feet. Now, before entering into the mosque, you need to take off your shoes or wear shoe coverings. Now, they sell shoe coverings for about the equivalent of 20 cents in US dollars. And note here, in this mosque, you don't need to cover your head.
As you walk through the door, the interior of the mosque is quite impressive.
Something that's interesting here is the tomb of Muhammad Ali is actually inside the mosque. You typically don't find tombs inside of mosques, and there's been some controversy over that. And when we finished here, we walked outside and we took some good views of Cairo. Note, it's very smoggy here. I mean, there's a lot of people who live in this city. Well, we got in the car because now we're going to the Coptic Christian quarter of Cairo. When we arrived there, our driver let us out and we began walking to the first church.
Right. As we're walking along, we see this Roman wall. Now, this is very important because this was part of what was called the Fortress of Babylon, and that was built originally by the Romans, although there is some controversy. Was it built, how old was it? Who built it? Did Nebuchadnezzar build it? But in general, it's believed that this was a Roman fort that was built. And why this is so important is because of the next church we're going to go see.
This church is called St. Virgin Mary's Coptic Orthodox Church.
It's a mouthful.
It is kind of. It's called the Hanging Church. Now, there's a little bit of confusion here in translation because what you and I think of hanging is not necessarily what they would think of hanging.
Well, that's right. In fact, the term hanging for the Egyptians actually means on a pedestal. It means raised up. So you can even go back to the example we gave when we were at the Grand Egyptian Museum, the gym, and we mentioned the obelisk out front. They actually call that the hanging obelisk, but it's really the obelisk on a pedestal, or the raised obelisk. So in this case, this church is raised, and it, as mentioned, was built on top of the walls of the fortress of Babylon, or on top of the walls of this Roman fortress. And so it's also called the staircase church, because you have to take these 29 steps up to get into the church.
Now this is one of the oldest churches in all of Egypt.
As you enter the church, you first enter a courtyard, and the walls have some beautiful mosaics.
Now these are religious mosaics, and one that really caught our attention is of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph as they were fleeing from King Harrod.
At the end of the courtyard, you can see the staircase going up to the church, but realize the ground here is 6 meters higher than it was during Roman times. So it's not as much of a climb as it used to be.
Now the Pope of the Coptic Church actually called this his residence church.
Well, we entered the church, and it is quite beautiful, and the adornments are stunning.
There are many, many icons. There's about 110 icons of saints and martyrs here.
As you walk into one of the side rooms, you can see the original beams of the church, that they have a glass panel exposing them.
There are also many relics here, and people will write prayers on paper and slip them inside where the relics are being housed.
Some of the lattice work wall carvings are quite beautiful and are made from ebony, ivory, and cedar.
And the altar is also beautiful, and it sits on 15 marble pillars. Well, we exited that church and walked through back streets and alleys, and we're going to our next church, which is the Church of St. Sergius and St. Bacchus.
Yeah, I tell you, I could enjoy spending a lot more time here actually just exploring those back streets. There were booksellers and all kinds of people, selling their wares. And it was so different being in the Christian quarter versus, the traditional, areas of Cairo or Jordan that we were at. It just had a different flavor to it. And it was, I would have loved to have more time to explore here.
Well, St. Sergius and St. Bacchus Church is one of the oldest churches in Egypt, dating back to the 4th century.
Now, what makes this church so special is it was built right on top of a cave where Jesus, Mary, and Joseph stayed during their flight through Egypt from Herod.
And there's belief here that Joseph was actually working on building the fortress of Babylon to help support the family. As we walked in here, you could see this was a much more simple church. It was made of bricks and columns.
Now from the side, you'll always be a line so you can tell where to go down into the cave.
So as we went into the side room, you could see the staircase down into the cave.
We walked on down into the cave and got our first glimpse.
So this was really cool, friends, because there's glass over the original cave floor. And so you can see that floor, and this is where Jesus would have walked and played, and it's just so cool.
Now the walls of the cave have been reinforced with brick, and they hold services down here.
There's actually a baptismal font down here. We'll do baptisms here as well.
And for us, it was a very moving experience just to spend some time here in a cave where the Holy Family would have stayed. Well, as we exited the cave and came back into the church proper, you can see hundreds of school children. They were all here to experience this.
Well, that was truly special to me. I mean, being a Christian and then getting to see where Jesus lived and where he would have walked, that just means so much to me.
Yeah, to think about the Holy Family there and Joseph going off to work and coming back to the cave and Mary taking care of things. I mean, it's just that life of a family, in the first century, right? It was really quite amazing to see that. So we would put this at a don't miss on a trip to Egypt.
Yes, absolutely. Well, we're leaving the Christian Coptic area and it's time for lunch, and our guide actually asks us what would we like for lunch. And we told him we would like a traditional lunch. We asked him, what would you normally have for lunch? And he said he would have koshary. Like, well, that sounds interesting. We could absolutely have koshary. And he took us to Koshary Abou Tarek.
In fact, it was funny. He was almost a little hesitant because the tour company had kind of had plans or had kind of set up this 3-course kind of fancy meal at this really nice restaurant. And like Nancy said, we just wanted what he would eat. And he's like, okay. He goes, it's really simple. And we said, yeah, no, that's great. It's, let's go have lunch. So we get there to Koshary Abou Tarek. And it's interesting. This actually used to just be a simple street cart. And in fact, the street cart's out in front still. And now it is one of the most famous. In fact, it's been listed as one of the top 100 iconic restaurants in the entire world. And it is massive. They put a lot of people through here. The restaurant's 5 stories high. And you walk in and it is going to be busy at all times. And they will guide you up. If there's no seating on the first floor, then go to the second, then the third, then the fourth.
We were up to the 4th floor before we got a seat.
Yeah, we absolutely were. But they said there was room up there, and there still was the 5th floor up there too.
Well, not every floor had a kitchen because they only make 3 things at this restaurant. They make koshary, they make lentil soup, and they make a custard dessert. That's it. Now let me tell you a little bit what a koshary is. A koshary is rice, lentils, noodles, fried onions, garbanzo beans, and it's topped with a tomato sauce, vinegar, a garlic sauce, and a spicy red sauce to taste. So it's a lot of carbohydrates.
It's a carb fest.
But it was fun. The head server there on our 4th floor, he knew that we had not been here before, so he comes and he shows us how to put it all together. I mean, it comes out in a bowl, but then he puts all the different sauces on top, and he says, how spicy would you like it? So it was a very interesting dish. Now, it tasted to me a lot like goulash, just missing the meat.
Yeah, I would agree. And also don't worry about, if let's say you're on your own, don't worry about coming in here because they speak English very well. They're used to tourists, but I would say 90+% of the people that we saw in there were all locals.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so, this is not a tourist place, although tourists go here. This is where the locals come and eat. And part of it is because this koshary meal you're seeing us have here was less than $5.
Right. The koshary itself was $3, and then by the time we had our water and our dessert, it was under $5.
Right. So super affordable. This is why the Egyptian people come here. That's what a koshary meal is. It's supposed to be a very inexpensive, hearty meal that they can eat during the day.
And we were full.
We were absolutely stuffed. In fact, I don't even think I could finish all of mine. It was so much food. What'd you think overall of it, Nancy?
I thought it was great. I actually, the food itself was plain. It was simple. I mean, I guess I'd rate it an 8 out of 10. But I thought it was a really nice place. I mean, it was really just an interesting place to go to.
It was the experience. Iconic.
Yes.
You can see why it's an iconic restaurant. And in fact, after we wrapped up and we're leaving, you can see here, they move fast. They put a lot of takeout food through here, and they cook literally tons of food in this place. So we don't want you to miss Koshary Abou Tarek. If you're in Cairo, in Egypt, talk to your guides, talk to your tour company and say, for lunch one day, we would love to come to this place. You won't regret it. It was awesome. Well, here's where we actually said goodbye to our guide in Egypt. He'd spent the last week with us. We've really enjoyed his company. We gave him his kind of summary tip, or we gave him a tip for the whole time there too. But really enjoyed our time with him. He did a great job. But we need to get back to our hotel because we have a flight back to the United States tonight at 2 a.m.
Yes.
So he was already close to his hotel there, so he stayed there, and then the driver took us back to our hotel.
We went back to our room, finished packing just to rest a little bit more, and now we're headed to the airport.
That's right. Well, it's the middle of the night, and our driver came on time. And once again, this tour company has been excellent about being there for us at every step of the way. And not only that, they spent, since our guide wasn't there with us, they actually sent another guide. So we weren't just with the driver to walk us through the airport. And I'm like, okay, I've traveled for a living. I can get through an airport. They're like, no, we want to, make sure we're there for you.
There is a lot of hand holding here, which that's a good thing.
Yeah. So we made it to the airport, got checked in. Now we are taking an Air France flight from Cairo to Paris, and then we're going from Paris to Detroit. Now on this leg, we actually do have premium economy. So if you guys remember all the way back a couple weeks ago when we went to Jordan, we took regular economy on Jordanian Air. Wasn't a great experience. This was very pleasurable.
It was so nice. The food was good on the flight. We had plenty of leg room and elbow room, and it's just a very comfortable seat. So
yeah.
I appreciated having premium economy.
Yeah, with the wider seat, the more leg room. It was absolutely worth it. And in this case, we didn't actually pay that much more. It was only a few $100s more to go from the economy to the premium economy. Now, if you want to go all the way to the lay flat seats, the beds and all that, now you're talking several $1,000s more, but it certainly was worth it, I thought.
Well, we arrived in Paris, we had our layover, really everything went smoothly, the flights were on time, and then we got on our second flight, and we're now in Detroit, and we can tell that we are back in Michigan because look at the snow, friends. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry to have to come back to the snow. I knew we would, but I still don't like to see it.
Yeah, well, it was funny because we just mentioned earlier about how chilly it was, you couldn't eat outside. Well, chilly there was 40, 50 degrees, and now we're hearing it's a blizzard. So.
Yeah. Well, we certainly are back home, friends, and we hope you've enjoyed our adventures here in Jordan and Egypt. Our next video, we're going to give you kind of a wrap-up, our thoughts. We'll let you know the tour company, the cost of everything, what we liked, what we didn't like. And
kind of our top sites that we want to see. So if you want to, plan your own trip to the Middle East, which we keep saying, do it, do it, do it.
Now.
That next video is going to be the one where we're going to give you that big overview of all these videos and really kind of let you in on the costs and everything. So I think you're going to want to see that. And how are they not going to miss it?
Well, friends, thank you always for liking, subscribing, and turning on those notifications so you don't miss a thing. All right. Have a beautiful day. We will see you very soon. Take care.
Bye-bye now.